We are live. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, Blake. We had a very successful day yesterday recapping these games, and I couldn't be more excited to turn the page a little bit here and actually talk about the exciting matchups, the ones that shouldn't be the blowouts in the quarterfinal round. We've got the holiday coming up, which should be a nice little break, but I think that there is going to be a potential for some amazing football on New Year's.
I was asked a question today, Joe, from our good friends over at WWL, and it was in reference to what did I learn from yesterday? Mm-hmm. What I learned from yesterday was pretty simple. What I learned was, is that Ohio State can win this whole thing. More than the teams getting blown out. I saw the real Ohio State yesterday. The real Ohio State that we should have seen all year showed up yesterday. So when I look at the recap and I look at everything that's going on, and we recap those and then look into round two, the biggest takeaway in round one is that Ohio State can go in here and win this whole damn thing.
That's one big thing that I took away from yesterday as well. And that's something we're going to unpack when we get to our secondary thoughts and our, after we've had a little bit of time to ruminate our opinions on the Ohio State win over Tennessee, which was a huge victory. I can't help though, but Blake, I think that there's this heavy focus on all of the blowouts that occurred yesterday. And I definitely want to turn the page on that and move past that, because we spent so much time justifiably complaining about the quality of the matchups, but the big focus needs to be about the change that can happen for removing the buys for the teams that win their conferences. And today on College Football Inquirer, Ross Dellinger brought this up. If there is unanimous decision-making from the committee, they could make that change for the upcoming bracket. I would hope.
What does that mean?
All of the members need to agree that there can't be any opposing votes. That he said that there has to be unanimous voting that agrees that they need to make that change. I don't know the possibility of that
this year.
Well, they didn't. That was not. It was because it was the first year that they did it. It was not an issue that they foresaw happening. Hence why they put the bracket together the way that they did, as poorly as they did. They did not foresee this situation that we had this year, where there were a lot of sloppy teams that ended up in the 3 and the 4 slot. You see what I mean?
Yeah, it sounds like a cop out, but I do see what you're. I do see what you're saying, because if you knew you could do it, like if you know you could do it, you can't convince me.
Well, wait, hold on. I understand what you're saying. They weren't going to make that change right before the playoffs started. They have to wait until the offseason to do that. They can't do that during the season.
Well, regardless, it is what it is. So we'll break down these 4 games, the 4 first-round playoff games. We already done it, but we're going to redo it again. Also, Joe, we're going to preview Ohio State and Oregon yet again, and Notre Dame and Georgia. I got to tell you, man, a lot of people feel justified after Ohio State, who's probably one of the most talented teams. Oh, look at the SEC. Okay, I'm just going to warn you. You better be careful.
Well, the funny part, too, and you mentioned this pre-show to me, a lot of people are using the Tennessee loss to justify a potential Notre Dame win by saying that the SEC isn't as tough as we thought it was. That's not going to be my take.
Do you believe that? Do you?
No. That's not going to be my take. But I just think it's interesting. That's all. I'm just going to phrase it that way. I find it quite interesting, Blake.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's a take.
Ohio State's different. Everybody with a brain and eyeballs knows this.
Yes.
Okay. So y'all can justify it with your mama, but don't justify it here. All right, we got a couple of super chats here. Elks, all from Elks. A $20 super chat says, Vol Twitter can hold that L. Thought they were going to invade our stadium. LOL, 15% max. Talked all that shizite just to get belt to arse. GBO stands. for get blown out. We punked that secondary. SEC boys weren't ready for the cold. Here's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I told you before the games in our when we were doing these breakdowns yesterday when the games happened. I told you either Tennessee's winning by 3 or they're getting blown out. There was no in between, right?
No.
You're 4-12-1 against the SEC. You might want to calm down.
Okay.
The last time you played an SEC team, you got beat by 35. You might want to shut up. I promise you, you keep talking that shit, and you're gonna find out what's gonna happen. All right, I'm telling you.
Well, what's gonna happen? They're not playing any. They're not playing any SEC teams down the line. I don't like. I just
the national title game. You're 4-12-1, and you got one win, and you're starting to play.
Ohio State beats Georgia this year. Ohio State beats Georgia this year if they face.
I don't disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that. But there also comes a part where if you're 4-12-1, and you got players running out there saying, we run the SEC. You haven't won a game against the SEC in over a decade.
Well, why can't they talk their shit after winning? Like, what's so harmful about talking their shit after they win?
I'm so glad you asked, because they put a felony law in place where an opposing team can't
put
a flag
in place yet.
It
was proposed. They didn't put it in place yet. It was proposed.
Okay, so you can be soft when you get your ass beat, but then you come in here and you say you run the SEC. See, I'm like an elephant. I don't lose my memory.
I don't think it's so
like
wrong
too.
I don't think it's so wrong. And also, and I tweeted this, it was really stupid that the Tennessee offensive linemen took their shirts off and then put on as many long sleeves and leggings as they could to stay warm. You don't do that.
Stupid.
Incredibly stupid.
Yeah, stupid. Their fans leaving in the second quarter, says Elks. That was the best team Tennessee has seen all year. Will Howard threw dots. Our fourth-string O-line dominated. You had 3 yards. Now on the Ducks into the Rose Bowl.
It was the funniest part about all this, I will say, that how well-traveled Tennessee's fans were. And one, there were some videos of some Tennessee fans complaining about the behavior of Ohio State fans because they weren't ready for the shit talking that was coming from Ohio State fans on their end. But yeah, it was kind of lame that they drove all the way there, they traveled all the way there, and then they ducked out. Their presence wasn't as heavy as I think everyone thought it was going to be.
I'm just going to warn you. You think you've won the victory.
I'm not an Ohio State fan. I'm not an Ohio State fan.
You know what this playoff has done, huh? It's turned the North against the South.
It has in a way. And it has in a way because there's no Pac-12, so it's just North versus South now.
Here's the truth. Outside of the bullshitting around here, here's the truth. Ohio State could be and probably is the most talented on paper team in the country. I don't think anybody can. I don't. The reason we talked about, and it was such a colossal miss when they lost to Michigan, was because how talented they are. Let's not miss about what the truth of it here is, right? And so, Danny Cannell run it. Michigan could have won the SEC. Texas went into the big house and curb stomped them. Texas's best offensive performance came against Michigan. And you know how bad Texas has been offensively. So you better you come on now. There's a difference. Anyway, and by the way, Dylan Sampson, we'll break that game down.
Okay.
Pretty much we already did there, but we'll do it again coming out of the break. All right, let's get rolling here. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all those groups. If you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages, you're watching us, listening to us on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell. My good friend, we're almost at 13,000 subscribers here.
Less than 400 away. We're really close. End of the month, I think we're going to get to 13.
Yeah, well, I mean, shit, it's like 10 days ago we were at 12,000. So please do us a favor if you don't mind. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out for sure. Let us get to a quick break. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We're going to get to a break, talk about our good friends over at BetOnline. We're going to come back and break down these games next. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
We're back.
So we just got done talking about Ohio State, so we're going to continue to talk about them as we break these games down really quickly. But, Joe, Ohio State absolutely dominates Tennessee. We talked about this last night, but to recap it again, we've been able to go back and watch the film. We've been able to go back and watch it. I guess your thoughts on how that game went and Ohio State was so dominant.
My biggest takeaway from this, and I brought this up last night, and I feel even more confident about it now after I watched the tape. Ohio State is right now my favorite to win the national title. Woo! I think that they're going to win the national championship. I think that the way that they played is the best out of the 4 teams. That is the most complete dominant performance I think I've seen all season long. They went up against a good Tennessee team. I don't want to hear anyone downplay the quality of Tennessee's roster, and Ohio State fans should not want to downplay the quality of Tennessee's roster. Mm-hmm. They were very talented front to back with some deficiencies that Ohio State very, very effectively accentuated. That version of Ohio State has every possibility to knock off and to dominate every team that they see, and more importantly, beat any good team that they face off with. It was the perfect marriage, Blake, of a really well-rounded roster, athletic at every single position group, and a perfectly schemed game. Chip Kelly was in his bag. That was one of the best called games that I can remember in recent memory. I went back, and when I was watching the play calling, you mentioned this, it wasn't anything that was overtly complex, but it was so well-timed. Everything that they did was so well-timed. They set so much bait up for them to come back with counters to the opposite side of the field. It was just the perfect measure of misdirection and just a little bit of confusion that hung out an aggressive downhill, especially in the run game, that hung out a very aggressive and athletic defense out to dry. So, man, I think if Ohio State can stay focused and they can be that locked in and they can fire off the ball the way that they did, they're a national champion.
Let me pause you on one thing. Okay. Do I think that they have the talent to win a national title? Without a doubt. Do I think that they have the playmaking ability, the coaching staff? Do they have everything to win a national title this year? 100%. But Dylan Sampson did go out in that game, okay? And when they could not establish the run, it was over. It was completely over, to the part where you had the SEC Player of the Year that was out, could not go anymore. And they made Nico beat him from the pocket, and he could not do it. Quite simply could not do it. It's not his game. It's not been Tennessee. You're going up against Dylan Gabriel in 10 days, whatever it is. It's a completely different beast. They're not one-dimensional. Tennessee is one-dimensional. No. They're not one-dimensional at all. They can get after you. Where I agree with you, I think that they can win a national title. There's no way to dispute that at all. I just don't want to go there yet. I'm not in reference to saying that they're the favorite. I'm not going there because I've seen you still have games against more
weaker.
I didn't want to say it like that, but yes, weaker teams and not come to play. You're right about this. Chip Kelly was in his bag, but why was he in his bag? They did not do anything special from a play calling, passing game standpoint. Joe, they're in zone. They run a corner route. Perfect call for that. They kept going to it. The drag routes on third down. Jeremiah Smith. I tweeted this to you. How many times is Tennessee going to allow Jeremiah Smith to be wide ass open on a drag route? How many times? Joe, in the first half, it was 3 times on third down. By the way, he had 6 catches. I mean, so half of his catches came on third down on drag routes. That's number 2. But here's the thing for me that I want to really point out. Okay, I thought that Ohio State got They played to their strength for the first time this season. When I watch Ohio State, I felt like that they didn't want to be pass happy, right? They wanted to be balanced. Why throw it to these freaks on the outside? Why? Will Howard is good enough to throw the fade to Jeremiah Smith, who can separate. He 1,000% is. This dude is on another planet. And if I'm getting Ibuka and all the others, okay, that can be involved in this, they're a dangerous weapon. I still believe that they can hit another notch offensively. That's how talented I think that they are with the weapons they have at receiver. They're not – here's the crazy part about Ohio State.
Yeah.
I still don't think that they've hit their peak offensively. Now, maybe it's because of the running game, but I don't think that they've hit their peak in the sense of I knew that secondary for Tennessee was going to be doo-doo. And our ways to win for Ohio State, what was our game plan, both of us?
It was
throw the ball around. And you did. Now, you kind of took the foot off the pedal when you were fully dominating that game, and good on you. But listen, I think that they just have better dudes than everybody around them. That doesn't mean that you can win a national title just because you have better dudes. Joe, let me tell you this. I'm going to make a bold statement.
Okay.
I've seen receiving cores like this before with my own eyeballs, and I've seen them transform things. I saw one last year, if I'm being honest with you, and I saw one 5 years ago. They are that talented. Jeremiah Smith alone makes them that talented.
I know we don't want to go super long on these, but like you just mentioned there that they have the dudes. And you can't purely just win by having the guys, because that's what happened against Michigan, where they were out-schemed. They were out-prepared. They overthought the preparation for the game. They decided to run right at Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, and that didn't work. The way that for me, and this is like I was watching the film, and I was getting juiced up watching it, because every single time on defense and on offense, they were flying off the ball. Like the ball was snapped, and they were going 110 miles an hour. That is what I'm getting at here and why they played so well. We're not talking about a game where they won by 10. We're talking about a game where they dominated an opponent that was one of the best teams in the country, one of the best teams in the SEC. This is no fluke opportunity that Tennessee was given, even though some people want to act like they didn't belong there. Ha. We made the same comments about SMU and Indiana. It's not the same shit. It's not the same shit at all. The way that they played and were able to produce that result, it all comes down to, in agreement with what you just said, they have the dudes. And when they're this motivated, which it feels like the way that they're talking right now, the way that you hear them talk after and before the game, they seem really, really upset with what happened against Michigan in a good way. And they're rallying behind it. They're not. That was what I said here.
Intensity.
And my last part with this, when we did the segment of how Ohio State wins it, and I brought up in those past couple of weeks, if they come out here and they play a really damn good game and they dominate Tennessee, I know that they're on that national championship trajectory. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm sticking to it.
The best thing that might have happened to them is that loss to Michigan.
Which is insane to consider. It's true.
In reference to Tennessee, we didn't spend a lot of time on them. The only thing that I'd say about Tennessee, you got to figure something out offensively.
Go get Zachariah Branch. Throw a lot of money at Zachariah Branch. That's the first thing
I don't think that that's the issue. Go back and watch that all 22 in the second half on the drive coming out. Nico misses 3 wide open dudes, and Heupel is all over him. And he's like, dude, what are you doing? It's a slant.
Okay.
Hot take. He's a young quarterback, but Joe, he's staring down a wide open receiver. Right?
He's also not getting a lot of separation from his guys on other plays, though, too.
Joe,
it's kind of a mix of both.
There's not going to be a lot of separation against a team like that. Doesn't mean you don't throw it. Joe, when he came out and they scored that touchdown on the 16-play drive, what did he do? He went 4 of 6. He let that bitch fly.
Yeah, he was a lot more aggressive.
Michael Jordan style.
He's
got to let it rip, brother. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's got to let it rip. He's too passive right now. That's their problem. Okay. Probably that cracked helmet he got. God, dog. That dang cracked this helmet. Jack Sawyer might be their third or fourth best player. That's the crazy thing in all of this.
Right. 100%.
All right. Joe, Notre Dame and Indiana took on each other on Friday night. The battle of the state of Indiana, and another ass whooping took place here. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't really have any super new thoughts on Notre Dame, but like the big thing that was reiterated to me is that they played to their identity. They didn't get away from what they were doing well. What got them to this point, and this was again we did a really damn good job at predicting these freaking games, by the way, and nobody's going to give us credit for that.
I want my credit.
Well, we're giving it to each other. What we talked about with Notre Dame and their path to success is they have to understand that setting up their passing game through running the football is going to win them games. And getting big explosive plays from Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price is what will win them games. And then eventually, Riley Leonard, I said this, and we didn't completely agree on it, but we're kind of on the same page. Riley Leonard needed to convert on third down as a passer. And he did. There were plays that he did, and he was able to do so. And more importantly, on defense, they just allowed their defense to go out there, play fantastic coverage, have fun, attack downhill. They're a bunch of young dudes that are getting better every single week. They have been one of the biggest surprises, in my opinion, with how many true freshmen are stepping up and performing the way that they are. And I think that's what makes them exciting and makes them a really fun team to track, because I think next year they could be even better defensively because some of their best players are true freshmen. But my main thing here, nothing really new, is them playing to their identity is what is going to keep them afloat. Riley Leonard just needs to, I think, take a slightly bigger step to hit his stride.
So this isn't Notre Dame, but it is a part of Notre Dame. So I tweeted this out. I know that you saw it. Home teams ran the ball for 207.5 yards yesterday, meaning all four home teams ran the ball for 207 yards. Notre Dame had 193 of it. 95 of it, though, came on 33 carries. We talked about this right after the game. So you had the long 98-yard run, right? Big deal. You can't, I mean, big deal. Jeremiah Love is a freak of nature. The thing that I'm worried, I say I worry, but I wonder about them. That means the other 33 carries that you had in the game, you ran for 2.87 yards per carry. So the question now becomes, and you brought up, and I was thinking about this today, you brought up, well, Indiana's defense has been really good in stopping the run all year. You're actually 100% right about that. They were number one in the country statistically in stopping the run. I know a team that's also really good at stopping the run too. You play them in 10 days, right? And so there comes a part where I say, listen, now that Georgia's got a little bit of rest here, I look into that. Now, we're going to talk about that in a minute. I don't want to, get into that. But to your point, I completely agree with you. You say to exactly who you were. I got to be real, man. I went back and watched it again this morning. Safety play was fantastic. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen better safety play in the run game this year than what I saw against Indiana. It was really good. They filled their lanes. They made tackles in the open field. But the biggest thing that I thought for Notre Dame, and we talked about their defense. Offensively, we can have our discussions. Defensively, man, you got to lean on them. Because if you play time of possession and keep away, we talked about this in the middle of the season when they were having struggles. Hey, don't get away from your identity because you're trying to be a new man. Because you want to say this is my team and I'm different. No, the personnel that you have right now dictates that you need to be this way. Go be that. Go be that man. Go be that team. Go be that person. Biggest thing, though, man, they stopped Indiana on third downs. 4 of 13 on third downs is a very, very big deal. When you're getting off the field literally 9 times in critical situations, it's a massive deal. You're having them to punt. You're getting the ball back. You're able to keep it away. That is what you need to do with the personnel that you have. Defense is going to be really interesting for them this week. But, Joe, they dominated through 3.5 quarters. The only interesting thought that I have about this is Indiana didn't stop fighting. And I wonder if that's just, we won the game, whatever, or Like how do you separate that? Because the way that the question that I'm asking here is, outside the long run, you average 2.87 yards per carry. Then your defense at the end of the game is giving up points. Now you can say backups were in and that's fine,
Yeah.
but at the same time, they weren't in when they scored that second touchdown. They started making a game out of it either.
So, okay, I think that's fair to bring up, and it was a concern that I brought up when we immediately reacted to the game. I don't know what like the how you resolve that, but like what basically happened, and it was why they got really complacent, and it was why they weren't finishing in the red zone. It was the same deal where it felt like they were getting down there, and they were so satisfied with marching the ball down the field that they weren't punching the ball in and finishing off drives. And the same thing happened at the end of the game where they were reading the scoreboard and they were just looking up at the scoreboard and it was like, hey, look at that. We kicked their ass. We're kicking their ass. This game's over. They weren't going to crawl back and win it. It wasn't going to happen. They get the onside kick recovery. You're kind of just sitting there watching, and we were texting while it was happening. And it was kind of like, this isn't going to lead to anything, but it would be hilarious and frustrating. Okay. Right. You knew that when they got the onside kick that they were going to score off of it. I do think it's something to just keep your eyes on, but I don't think it's anything to be like super alerted, because you just mentioned there that the backups were in the game for a portion of that time. And I can't take a ton away from that, because you already have a bunch of young dudes. You put even younger dudes that aren't even ready to play onto the field. Of course, they're going to give up points.
Throwing this out there, whether it be Georgia, Penn State, or if you get to a national title, if you continue to do that, you are going to lose. And if you do that in 10 days or whatever it is, again, against Georgia will make you pay.
I brought that up on Bleacher Report. I said that you can't do that against Georgia, and you can't do that against Penn State. You just can't. They're too talented.
Certainly, I think you can get away with it with Penn State, because I just feel like James finds ways to lose games. You can't get away with that in 10 days. That's the bottom line. I'm just telling you, we better be careful. You better be careful about that. So we'll see. All right. Let's go to Clemson and Texas here, Joe. So Clemson and Texas, Joe, a close game there at the end. They make a goal line stand, and Joe, I went back and watched the game today. Even though it was closer than in a score aspect, God, did I feel like Clemson got dominated yesterday. I mean, it was still close. I mean, they could have cut it to a 7-point game there. And then they make the stand, and I'm like, God, Lee, they just got run all over. I guess recapping this for a second time here, going back and rewatching it, your thoughts on Texas and Clemson?
I think overall, yeah, you're right. Texas did dominate them in a lot of areas, especially on the ground. But we talked about this coming into the game. There was an expectation that they should have been able to run the ball a lot easier than usual, because Clemson was abysmal at stopping the run. It was one of their biggest deficiencies all year. A lot of the games they played, they could not stop the run. So their offense played to expectation, like we talked about. There was going to be less pressure on Quinn Ewers' shoulders, meaning he would have to complete less difficult throws. If he had the pick where, it was tipped the way that it was, that wasn't going to completely negatively take them out of the game, and then they were going to be chasing. They were going to be able to have their way with a team like Clemson that has athletes. They were the most talented, weaker seeded team in the playoff yesterday, but they weren't a complete roster, and they had holes, especially along their offensive line. The one thing that kind of irks me with this, and look, the Texas fans are all pissed off at what we said about them yesterday. I really don't care.
Go figure.
People are acting, and Texas fans are acting like we're supposed to give them an A+ for that performance. That was like a C performance. You did what you were supposed to do, and you had the opportunity to blow them out, and you didn't. You let them crawl back into the game. I stand by the two things that I mentioned. Then when I watched the All-22 copy, it accentuated those beliefs, which was Quinn Ewers was misfiring all over the place on a number of throws. He was not on point. He made a number of big throws that helped them win the game. That's the dichotomy of Quinn Ewers, is makes a big play, and then he can't hit a guy that's 10 yards away from him. He can't hit the easy throws. And then the other part about this, their inability to cover passing plays on the boundary is a problem. It is a problem. It is a serious issue. They have really good safety play, and we talked about this yesterday, Blake. They're going to end up in a situation against Oregon or Ohio State where they're going to get freaking cooked by either of those receiving cores that are way more talented than Clemson's. The way that Clemson was able to get back into the game was because they attacked that.
I'm going to talk about the winner first, but I got to say this to your point. Not to you. Told you.
You're right.
I told you. They got an issue on the boundary, brother. They have an issue on the boundary, and if they see a core with a quarterback that can get dudes the ball at the boundary and on the boundary, they are in trouble. Know why Carson Beck couldn't do it? That's not in the litmus test that you need to find it. I'm going to make an argument tonight that's going to be crazy. It might get me banned that Georgia might be better without him right now. I mean, but that's neither here nor there. Here's the truth about this, Joe, that I want to point out to give Texas a lot of props. The four toughest games, and yes, one of these is going to be laughable for some, the four toughest games that Texas played this year, twice against Georgia, once against not Alabama.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, and one against Vandy. They couldn't run the ball for over 100 yards. They ran for 293. If you're going to allow them with a banged-up O-line run the ball like they did on you, it's a splattering. It's an outright can of whoop-ass that's being opened. Clemson physically got dominated in the trenches by a beat-up, banged-up offensive line that had a right tackle concussed and a center that got banged up and had to go out. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And good on Sark. Sark took it right to their ass. Here's the problem that I have with that, though, and they can be mad. I don't give two shits. You should have separated from them more because of the weapons that you have on the outside. That's the part that we're trying to make here. Joe, if Arch Manning was their quarterback, I really start questioning their capability of winning. I really do.
I do too.
You would have to live with some mistakes, but those are freshmen and first-time starter mistakes. He's more dangerous. And that's the part where Texas is not going to be who they can be until they do that. They're not. Not going to happen because he continues. We talked about this yesterday. The third down miss in the drag route to Golden. Joe, they would score there. They'd be up 21 points and it's ball game. He what, year 4, right? He's in year 4.
He's started for 4. Well, he's in his 5th year, I believe.
No, I think 3. He started for 3 years and he came in from Ohio State. This is 4th year, I think. Regardless.
He's been in college for 5 years.
He's okay. Regardless, he's literally missing wide open things. The reason we're so tough on him is because this is a senior doing this, Joe.
Yeah.
He can make some really good throws, but right now I don't know what's going on with him. They could separate, but Joe, they let one of the worst teams in the SEC run all over them, and that is the biggest recap here for me. Now, Texas defensively, man, I mean, Joe, I don't know what to make of them either. Their front seven's really good. They held Clemson to 76 yards. Klubnik makes some big-time throws. And here's what I'd say, too. Texas's excuse would be, well, look, brother, Cade Klubnik is a former 5-star quarterback. He might be an NFL quarterback. Like, that's going to happen. I don't disagree on 49 dropbacks. Joe, they dropped back 49 times yesterday. He better throw for 300 yards.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So you put the ball in the air more, that's bound to happen. Last thing for me. Clemson was 4 of 15 on conversion downs, 3 of 12 on third down. They got outcoached. I got a hot take. I think I think Coach Riley, the OC, got absolutely abused. In critical third down situations, he got abused.
I agree
Think
with
about
that.
this. Of the 15 conversion downs, PFF, 14 pressures.
That's this.
And not only that, they threw the ball 14 times.
Right.
So there comes a part here. Now, that's not my stat. They tweeted it, not me. So or put it out there, not me. There comes a part here where they got really outcoached. Now, I thought they fought. They gave it everything they had, but it was an outright bludgeoning.
No, yeah, there was a coaching gap, talent gap, and it was everything that we said in the preview. There was not going to be much of a shot for them to play close.
No doubt. Penn State and SMU. Let's wrap it up here, Joe. Here's my thing. Ass whooping.
Is that it? That's all
You
of
can
it?
go right on ahead. I'm not going to continue to justify a team like this getting in.
Okay.
Put in whoever else you want. Put in Illinois. Put in Ole Miss. Put in South Carolina, Alabama. I don't care.
Okay. Let's forget about it. Let's forget about SMU because SMU is unimportant to the grand scheme of the conversation.
Okay.
I was reminded and confirmed on the fact, not reminded, I was confirmed on the fact that Penn State's front seven is really freaking good. It is really athletic at linebacker, at defensive line. They're able to just completely shut down any team's passing attack, run game. They were all over Kevin Jennings. Zane Durant, Abdul Carter are two phenomenal players on that defensive line that had great games, plus the linebacker play, which again was freaking fantastic with the interceptions that they were able to produce, all of that. That is what's going to carry them because that's what's brought them this far. That's what's going to help them beat Boise State and for them to potentially slow down Ashton Genty more than any team has been able to this year. The one thing that I can't help but bring up, though, why the hell do they always start so slow and so conservatively on offense? It has killed them in every game that they have had an opportunity to step up to the plate and win a big game. It didn't apply to this situation because this was a beatable opponent. This was an opponent that they were so much more gifted than, and then all it took was a 14-point buffer created by their defense with 2 pick sixes that they finally were able to get going, and it didn't matter at that point that it took them so long to generate any juice. But against Oregon and against Ohio State this year, those were two games that they were really slow to get going, and their opponent was just more talented than them, so they couldn't completely catch up. They can play good games, but when you're down a score or two against a really good football team, it is really tough sledding. It's going to cost them. It's not going to cost them against Boise State, but it is going to cost them.
I got to be real with you on something. I went back and rewatched it, and then I was thinking back about what we were talking about in the preview of this, like in my mind. SMU was 96 in the country in passing yards allowed. Remember, we came out here and said they need to throw the ball all over the place.
Yeah.
Aller went 13 of 22 for 127 yards, no touchdowns, no picks.
He was all over the place, too. His ball placement was awful.
He had a rough day. So, Joe, that's the worst secondary he's going to see from here on out. Maybe Boise State. Maybe.
Boise State's probably just as bad.
Okay. Georgia and Notre Dame. Xavier Watts might have 4. Xavier Watts might have 4 picks.
Malachi Starks also
might have 4 picks. So there comes a part where I was very disappointed in the passing game yesterday from Penn State. Problem is they knew you were one-dimensional and they couldn't stop it anyway.
Right, it didn't apply. It didn't apply in this situation, but that's my whole point.
It will apply moving forward. I promise you that. It will apply moving forward.
Yeah.
Just not against Boise State. God, Penn State and Texas this week, man. God bless it.
By the way, and let's get to these previews, but
yeah.
Boise State fans, man, y'all need a reality check.
Oh, geez.
Oh my God. What they're saying in my comments is like all they have to lean on is the fact that they lost close to Oregon in week 2. teams schedule those games knowing that they're not going to play their best football because it's week 2. It's whatever. I can't wait to do that preview because I'm going after Boise State. And I have so many tweets bookmarked, man. I cannot wait for that game. They better fucking smoke them.
I can't really say it better than that. All right. You would drop an F-bomb.
Sorry. I'm that pissed off by them.
I can tell. Oregon and Ohio State take on each other in the Rose Bowl. Joe, a rematch here. Now, we all thought that we were going to get a rematch of this game, but we thought the rematch would be in the Big Ten title game, but it's not. It's in the Rose Bowl, the grandfather of them all. I'm going to talk about it here tonight. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, this is going to be a really exciting game. And I mean, one could argue that this should be the national title game, but instead we're getting it 2 rounds early. And it's sad that we're not going to get to see these teams both compete for a national championship. We know that Oregon is one of the most well-rounded teams in the country, and they have played consistent ball every single week. We know that their offense is so gifted with what they have at receiver with Evan Stewart and Tez Johnson. And the way that their offensive line with Cornelius and Connerly, the way that they have boosted the quality of that offensive line play, despite a shaky start to the season, has been super, super notable. Their pass rush has been great with Mateo Uiagalelei and Derek Harmon and the things that they've been able to do. But I can't help but feel, and it goes all with everything that I've said, the fact that they've played each other, and this game was a close loss for Ohio State at Autzen. I really do think that Ohio State on a neutral field in the Rose Bowl is going to be able to win this game. If they come out with that same level of intensity, and if Chip Kelly schemes things up as effectively as he does, the most important part here, if they're really aggressive downhill, if they are very aggressive running the football with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson against a team that this year is 110th in defensive EPA per rush. They're one of the worst teams in the country in rush yards, explosive rush plays allowed. They're giving up too much, and we saw that in the Big Ten championship game. This is a equally dominant rushing attack. Like that for me is the main focal point. If they can't stop Ohio State's run game between a matchup of 2 evenly matched teams and one has the biggest hole, that hole is going to cause problems for Oregon, and Ohio State can win this game.
I agree with what you're saying in the sense of that Oregon has been leaky in the running game, right? Like very leaky in the running game. I mean, look what Penn State did to you. Now, I think that you have a newer offensive line coming into this game than you saw the first go around. So those guys at the left tackle, right guard, whatever. Like I remember, what was it, Jack Sawyer going up to the right guard and saying, "Hey man, look, you took a beating after Michigan, but you played a great game. Great job." I'm with you on. Listen, you need to be able to establish the run and run the football. I'm not disagreeing. Man, I'm throwing the ball all over the place to Megatron and them dudes. I'm sorry. You're just too talented. I get Will Howard. I get the mistake really isn't on him. The interception, not really. I mean, he's throwing dimes, man. You got to get the ball to the playmakers out in space and let them go to work. Here's the crazy thing. I think that you've gotten better. You've faced adversity along the way. So has Oregon. But there does come a part where do I trust Ohio State? Because I know the talent's there. But Dylan Gabriel can and will be a problem if you allow him to be. It's very tough to beat a good team twice. It's why it doesn't happen in the NFL very often. Can Ohio State continue to play with that same intensity that they played with against Tennessee? How pissed off are you? How focused are you? Because when you're focused and locked in with all that talent, you're probably the best team in the country.
Right.
But Oregon continues to find ways to win. And, Joe, the question becomes, how does that week off, them not having to play, do they come in there with fresher legs? Does it help them? That being off is going to be a big deal. Is there rust? I don't know. We're going to find out. But one thing that I do know is that this is very two talented teams. But, man, if you continue to find number 4, if you're Ohio State, I think you can win this thing. And you're right. You got to stay with the running game. But, man, you got to continue to have that same game plan of pushing the ball down the field like you did against the Volunteers.
So that's the big thing on the other side of this. Like, if Ohio State were to lose, what factors into it for Oregon is, one, they're going up against a much more banged up and weaker offensive line than the one that they saw the first time they faced them. And there's going to be an easier time getting home with a pass rush that has matured and improved every single week, and that has gotten consistently better since that first matchup when they already played really good the first time they played. And the second part about this, I think Ohio State's secondary that got cooked, specifically Denzel Burke, Igbinosun had a decent game the first time. I feel like that they have gotten better since then. But do they just revert back to their mean? Do they just revert back to the fact that they can't cover Tez Johnson and they can't cover Evan Stewart? That's like the largest question mark, because I feel like I know that Ohio State's going to be able to run the ball. I feel like I know that Oregon's going to be able to get sacks and pressures on Will Howard easier than what we just saw from Tennessee. But are we going to see the same level of ease in the passing game from Evan Stewart and Tez Johnson? That to me is like the largest question that could really swing this thing.
Are we going to see a better passing attack from Ohio State?
Well, they didn't particularly have a bad game throwing the ball,
Joe.
The first time
I'm telling you, man, they have not scratched the surface of the peak of what they can be offensively. I'm telling you, they haven't. Not with those dudes at receiver. No way.
A fair point.
Okay. Jeremiah Smith changes a lot of things for a lot of people. So we'll see. In reference to Oregon, to your point, I trust Dylan Gabriel a lot, man. And he gets in these kinds of games and he goes stupid. He starts running around making plays and he goes stupid. You better contain him. Now, the thing with Oregon with me is I don't know if I don't play a little keep away early, okay, to get my defense into the rhythm of the game too. So it's going to be interesting to see how both of them counteract here. Final point for me, Ohio State's still 43rd in the country and third down offensive percentage.
What do you mean an offensive percentage? Like in offensive success on third down.
Offensive success on third down.
Got it.
They're 43rd. They're going up against a defense that has been very good at getting after the passer on third down. So to your point, if there is a chink in the armor that we're going to see here, can Oregon go out there and be physical? And look, man, they were banged up going into that Big Ten title game. They've had a little time to rest. Let's see how they counteract here. But it's tough. It's very tough to go against either one of these teams, to be real with you.
If you had a lean, just for the sake of the title of this video, if you had a lean.
If I had the lean, I'd go Ohio State.
Okay. All right. Oregon fans, we're not just out. We're not saying that you're going to get smoked.
We're going to get clipped. We're going to get their social.
Should we get the social? Should we give him the social guy like a really out of context clip? Oregon's going to get blown out.
Yeah, there we go.
Go ahead,
because he loves to clip us. Just not in a good way. Maybe Ohio State should counteract that.
Yeah, no,
I do think Ohio State is there. The talent's there. Can you overcome? Can Ryan Day? That's another thing, Joe. You did it against Tennessee. Good. Can you get over that ultimate hump?
Right.
Oregon's going to be the hump that you're really like him getting over that hump is going to be bigger than what, anyway. Okay. So let's wrap it up with this one. So Notre Dame and Georgia in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. Are you coming to New Orleans on Christmas Eve?
New Year's Eve. I thought about it, but the prices to these tickets are like $1,000 also this round as well. So I don't know if I really want to do that to make it hard.
But I mean, it's New Year's Eve in New Orleans. You can go to Bourbon Street. You can come see your boy.
Yeah, but like we're not going to be able to record. I'm going to end up getting lost in the sauce, man.
You'll get lost in the sauce in New Orleans. I promise.
Yeah, exactly.
But Notre Dame and Georgia, Joe, how do you see this one panning out?
just like what we talked about here at the Rose Bowl, this is going to be, I think, a really close, hard-fought battle. This Georgia team has been the most tested amongst every single team in the playoff remaining. And that is going to help them in a close game against Notre Dame find a way to pull out the win. But here's my thing, though. I think if there is a year that Notre Dame gets a victory over an SEC team in a playoff setting like this, I think it could be this year. I talked about this after the Notre Dame victory against Indiana. One of the things that I brought up that was accentuated for me for the strengths for Notre Dame. They need to keep this low scoring, and there is a high path for success for them on defense. They play really tight, close coverage in man-to-man situations against a receiving core that is prone to dropping passes. They are going up against an offensive line that has struggled with run blocking, with a run defense that is really stout, led by Riley Mills and Howard Cross, and they're able to generate pretty consistent pressures against the teams that they faced, going up against a quarterback that has not faced meaningful situations. Gunnar Stockton, at the end of the day, Blake, is the biggest wild card in all this. Because if Gunnar Stockton goes out there and plays like an inexperienced quarterback, Notre Dame can win this football game. This could be a stupidly low scoring, like 17-10 or something like that. That's what they need. But Gunnar Stockton, though, could go out there like he did in the second half against Texas and play out of his mind and look like Stetson Bennett, the next coming of him, and lead them to a victory. And Notre Dame doesn't have the tape on him to know how to handle him. So there's a lot that can come into play here. But I have to stick with my Fighting Irish, being a Notre Dame fan, and find a way to support them. Find a way to support them. This feels like it's an opportunity that they can get this win. I will ride into the ground with my guys, okay? You can't fault me for doing that.
You're such a coward.
Why does it make me a coward? If anything, if I was a coward, I'd pick Georgia. I'm willing to go toe-to-toe. I don't give a shit.
Okay. Calm down a little bit. Calm down.
Call me a coward, man. I gotta.
So here's the thing here's the thing that I'd say, Joe. Gunnar Stockton was able to score 20 points against Texas in a second half. How much better is Notre Dame than Texas defensively in the front seven?
Well, okay, it's very hard to prepare for a new quarterback that you've never seen before. It's something that we've talked about on the show.
No, I don't disagree with that. What I'm saying is they got better with him.
Yes.
And you don't know what to expect. Here's what you should expect. He gonna run on you. He gonna run on you, and you better get him down because he will lower his pad level and run you flat over. We saw him doing that against Anthony Hill is one of the most dangerous linebackers in the game of college football today. Literally on the sidelines, my man's putting his pads down and running through his chest. Like
that's why he's that's why he could be a catalyst for that reason. He
can be a catalyst. So, in reference to this game, here's what I'd say. You're right. You don't know what you're getting from Gunnar Stockton. What do they do? Are they different? You have a half to go off of it. Which either thing can happen here. Anything can happen where you're right. He can come out here and lay an egg, or he can come out here and play like he did. But, Joe, I got to be real with you. It's not as if that he came into a low-leverage situation. He came into a very high-level situation. Lose and get out of the playoff, win and get a first-round bye. Like, kid play fun. Joe, he was on pace to score 40 points himself. We're looking at a defense that they ran the ball on because of his factor. They have not been able to run the ball all year, not effectively. He comes in the game, they start running the football. So the argument that we made about Ohio State losing to Michigan could also be the same kind of counter logic that you use against Georgia. Now everybody's really locked in and focused to, hey man, we gotta step all of our game up because now we have a quarterback that's going into his first start in the playoffs because our starting quarterback got hurt. But here's what I do know. They're better offensively with him because it's their style and identity. When they're running the football and he's running quarterback lead, and then you can go 12 personnel, then you run play action out of it. It's what Georgia does, man. Mm-hmm. It's what they did in both national title runs. But here's the thing for me that I want to make a very big emphasis on about going into this game. Georgia will contain your running game. It's going to happen. Are you going to be able to throw the ball on third down? This is your real test. You have not been, and this is the truth, Notre Dame has not been tested like this all year.
Obviously.
Not even remotely close.
I'm not going to debate that.
So you better be able to convert on third down. You better be able to throw the ball on third down. And I'm going to promise you this, as God is my witness, because Kirby is this cocky. He is going to go man-to-man coverage, and he's going to walk dudes down and say, listen, we may lose this game. Jeremiah Love, you're not winning it for him. That is Kirby's philosophy. Look at every good running back he's gone against. Every single one of them. Joe, in both Alabama games, what did he do? He's walking safeties down the box. Jalen, you're going to have to throw it on us. You're going to have to throw it to win. Milroe makes the long throw to Ryan Williams to be able to win the football game. He's not going to allow you to be able to run the football. That is Georgia football. So, Joe, if Notre Dame wins, it's going to come off the arm of Riley Leonard because there's going to be critical third downs that he's got to convert.
That is a really good point here. And that's where, as a Notre Dame fan, where I have the most fear. Because everything I just talked about there is Notre Dame or with Georgia. And if Notre Dame were to make this a really low-scoring game, the SEC championship game was pretty low-scoring. And the way that they were able to create a low-scoring game was by saying to Quinn Ewers, throw the ball as many times as you want. You're not going to get any relief from Trey Wisner. And they didn't generate any rushing yards. You look at the statistics, they couldn't move the ball on the ground. And it's not like that they had to just constantly throw the ball to get back into the game. It was close the entire game. So for that,
you just had 31 rushing yards.
Right. It was abysmal. I think, and I would have faith that Notre Dame would be able to generate a spark play here or there from Jeremiah Smith or from Jadarian Price because they have a better offensive line than what Texas currently is dealing with. And they also have better running backs than what Texas has. And that has always been a negative that we've talked about.
But they don't have a better quarterback that can throw on crucial third downs.
Riley Leonard, and I 100% agree with you. That is it is so cliche and easy to say this game is one off of the play of the quarterbacks, but that's 100% true because Gunnar Stockton, does he step up to the plate, is totally applicable for this discussion. And then the inverse is talking about here, does Riley Leonard look like the way that he did on third down against Indiana, against a much better secondary and much better defensive linemen that are going to be bearing down on him? If he gets a little bit risky, Malachi Starks is picking him off. He is the most gifted safety in all of college football and is going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick.
I'd still say Macumba, but okay.
They need, to your point, they need Riley Leonard to play his best game. This can't be a game where you've got mistakes and expect to win.
Well, here's my thing. You're basically what you're trying to tell me is that Notre Dame's going to go down to New Orleans and out physical Georgia. That's what you're trying to tell me.
Well, okay, but I mean, is it batshit crazy to say that philosophy, it's not like that hasn't worked and that couldn't work?
It happened in a rivalry game, and they won and beat Georgia Tech. And meanwhile, I see Ohio State having that same exact issue against Michigan, and it worked for Michigan. And then I see Ohio State explode yesterday. Brother, here's a wild take. Kirby got y'all right where he wants them, right where he wants you. He got you right where he wants you. A backup quarterback coming into the playoff run. Good luck, bud. Look, I've seen this story. Hey, I've literally seen this story before.
I'm going to get put on a poster for saying this.
Oh, you're going to.
I really do think that Notre Dame they're not all the way where that Michigan national championship team was last year. That team was very experienced compared to this current Notre Dame team. But
don't do this.
Look, all I'm just saying, though, that there are similarities. You're built along your lines of scrimmage, and you've got really good defensive tackles, and you've got talented safeties that have produced turnovers and two really good running backs. I'm not saying that Notre Dame is that Michigan team, but that Michigan team was able to get as far as they did by being physical against Alabama. Who says Notre Dame can't win by doing that?
And what did J.J. McCarthy do to win the football game?
You're right. He expanded the pocket, and he made some plays on the run, and he made some throws in important situations.
Okay. He's going to have to do it, or you're going home. You're going home. I'm no way.
No, they're going to dare him to beat him. I know. Literally, we saw them do that against Quinn Ewers. They're going to do it.
Literally. And look, that's the second time that they faced off against a team. We'll see. Fravel Edit says whoever wins Oregon, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia games play for the Natty. I can get behind that. I can get behind that.
I mean, it's going to be the most tested teams.
The only question we would have to have a debate about would be probably Penn State versus Notre Dame.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, and could Texas beat Oregon or Ohio State? I don't know.
I don't think they can.
Well, we'll see. Fravel says the national media will say that SMU and Indiana didn't deserve, but they're quiet about Tennessee. Why? They played Oregon or Ohio State where Indiana did.
Stop.
SEC means they deserved a spot.
Stop. We have to be smart enough to know. And I'm not calling you out, Fravel, but like we got to be able to know. I know that what you're trying to do here, but like we all know that Tennessee is better than those two teams. The score of that game is so different than the score. If Ohio State played against Indiana or they played against SMU and they got Indiana a second time, the way that they played in the game, they're blowing them out. I hate the hypotheticals. The SEC was doing the hypothetical game yesterday. I'm sick of the freaking hypotheticals. We're done. No more. Just talk about the games. Who's in the field? That's it. No more.
We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.